please pronounce your name correctly for me?
Okay, my name is Dario Illari, except in Italy, in Italian, it's Italian parents, it's Dario Illari. Dario Illari. But in English, I don't even, it's Dario Illari. But what's funny is I'm 5'6". Or do you have sense? I'm 5'6". I'm not that tall, but I have cousins who live in America, in New York, and they're kind of two brothers, Italian. So all the brothers went over from Italy. I was born in London. They were born in New York. We have others that went to Zurich in Switzerland. And they said, "Oh, we're doing our family tree," as Americans do. Don't know, but they kind of wanted to get that history. And I said, "Wow, that's good." And he goes, "Do you know where we're actually from?" And I said, "I have no idea." He goes, "We're actually Swedish." And I went, "All right, I'll put it to you. At 5'6", dark skinned, I'm not very Swedish. And what makes you think that?" Well, and they said, "Well, we kind of found that our great great grandfather came over in Sweden, and our surname was actually, because in Italian you pronounce it Illari, and it says our surname was actually Hillary, which is a very common Swedish name." And I said, that kind of works, because in Italian you don't have Y as a letter in the alphabet. So Illari is ILL. That's how it's pronounced. So we've kept the same pronunciation. And there's a small side of me thinking, we're really Swedish, but we're not. I'm not Swedish. I don't look very Scandinavian. I'll put it out there.
No, you do not.
No.
Agreed.
So Dario Antonio Luigi Francesco Illari is my full name with the grandparents' names and then my confirmation name. But yeah.
Extremely Italian. Yes.
Extremely Italian, but born in London, East London.
Fair enough. Now, so, I mean, you do some of these days, you do some amazing things. What's the exact role? Like, I saw a boss of Jealous Gallery, but I'm sure you have a more proper title.
No, do you know what? It's that everyone, when we kind of started, everyone can choose. Everyone said, "Oh, I want to be this." I guess you can choose whatever name you want to be. So some people, it's creative director. This is Jess, who kind of has been with me from the start. And some people go from, so they choose them. But on my card, I'm the only one. I don't have anything. I'm the founder. I started it. But yeah, so I don't really have, I think director, that's what I have in my sign off, actually. That's what I just have, is director.
But let's go back a little bit. So how did you even get into the creative fields? Because I know you're an artist yourself, and how did you get into it? Were your parents creative? Some schooling? What was your path?
Well, I suppose it was. I mean, I was brought up in just around the corner. We're in East London at the moment. I'm from Shoreditch in our building. My parents had a cafe, a working man's cafe. They immigrated over. And for them, art was the last thing that they wanted their child to do, I suppose. Immigrants who come over, they're farmers. And so I suppose what they actually want is, to prove that they have made it to the family back home, and for themselves, is that their kids have an office job, working in a bank. They're working in a bank, a solicitor, a doctor, an architect, that kind of thing. And it's all kind of, and it's kind of goes across all immigrant families, be it Bengali, be it Irish, be it thing. That's what they hope for their kids.
That's not an Irish or an immigrant specific thing. Actually, every parent wants that for their kids.
Yes, I guess, yes, but yes. But I suppose what I mean is the ones that stayed back, because were still working on the farm, they kind of almost expected the kids to carry on working on the farm. But when they were here, they were in this new place, all run the cafe. But yes, you're right. So I came over, and I loved art, and I was was I good at it? I don't know, but I loved art. But for my parents, when I did my O levels, it was O levels where we got exams that you do when you're 16 in England. They just didn't want me to do art, so I did Italian and English literature, because I knew that I know the language. I grew up knowing it, as having spoken Italian at home. And English, and there still was that creative side, which was somewhat acceptable. So I love words. I love the weight of words, and it's that kind of purest of all the arts in a way. But art is something that I've always loved. And so when I'd go to Italy for the summer holidays, in Italy you don't have piggy banks. Where you guys are, you have piggy banks.
We do have piggy banks.
Piggy banks, right? Okay. Now, in Italy, they have these there's very classically shaped little amphoras, They're little amphoras, and in Italy they're called salvadanae, money savers. And you save up till they're full, and then you smash them open, you make a wish, and you spend the money on good things. Now, I'd go to Italy, and with friends, we'd always sit there painting. We'd paint them. So I'd always bring some over to London, and then I started. Every summer I'd drove over to Italy, and I'd fill up the boot of the car, about 100 of them, paint them, and then sell them in Camden Market. And they did really well. But then I'd go back to my other jobs, and then I kind of met a girl, Australian. She moved in after about 2 weeks, and because I still had a lot around the house, because you could only do a market stall if you had like 50 or 60, and the last 2-3 weekends, you'd have 10, 15. So I'd just keep them for the next year for when I'd go to Italy. And she said, "What are these?" And I said, "Oh, these are little money pots, blah blah blah." And I said I did well for them during the summer. And she, of course, she had a business degree. And she said, "I think we could do really, really well with these." I went, "Oh, okay." So we bought 1,000. We hadn't shipped over from Italy. These little kind of dusty terracotta things. And I hand painted them. I showed her how to paint them. We'd paint them on a wheel. And then we started to sell them at markets. My brother helped me. Her sister helped her. And we were running all these 4 markets. And it was all cash. And this was like 20, 25 years ago. And never kind of feel sorry for people who do a market stall. You kind of think, oh, they can't do very well, especially in November and December, and this is kind of, as I said, about 25 years ago, we were just each market stand on each day, and we had 4 of them on Saturday and 4 of them on the Sunday. They would each bring about £500, and on the last weekends, a lot more. So it was £2,000, £4,000 every weekend. This is 25 years ago. But then in January, it slows down. And then Jackie said, Jack, I call her, but her name's Jackie. She goes, that was really good. So we carried on from the next year. And she said, right, now we have to start doing trade. We have to doing trade fairs to distribute. I mean, she thinks big. I was like, what's the matter with this? This is really good. She goes, no, we're going to do trade fairs. And we're going to start selling to shops. And we did. And it just grew and it grew and it grew. And in those 10, 12 years, it came that we had a place in Tottenham, and we were it ended up selling about 7,000 a week. Just so many. We had 35 people. We were distributing in Japan, Australia, America, and Canada, and then selling to all the big garden centers here. And for a moment, they had their time. They were just like, wow. And then 2008, the Lehman Brothers crash, and that changed everything because people bought in a different way. Before, I'd go do the fairs at Christmas, and they say, "Oh, Dario, right, we're doing really well. Can we have a carriage paid order?" Which was like 36. Can we have a carriage paid order every other week in November, and then every 5 days, going all the way, stop at the 15th of December. If we need to double up, we'll give you a call. Perfect. And people would pre-order. What happened with the Lehman Brothers, because it's the worry, the uncertainty in the market, people didn't pre-order and buy. They'd buy as they sold. And that was the biggest change. And we had to respond, but they're hand painted. And so people would phone up on the Monday and say, right, we had a great weekend. Can we have some more? And I said, well, why didn't you order for that? Oh, no, the next weekend may not be as good. So that was the problem. That's where it changed. And part of the money that I would use from the company was called Terra Mundi, by the way. Terra Mundi, Latin word for Earth World. So, and I used the money because I always loved art and I loved Warhol. My 2 greatest loves were kind of Warhol and Canaletto. And I know they're kind of very odd. No, they are. It's because when we were at primary school, the teacher, took us to the Tate Modern. And then they had one of Warhol's Brillo boxes, which is this sculpture, and it was on the floor. But my mum and dad had a cafe. They would buy the box that looked exactly the same, but with Brillo pads inside. And I was looking at it, and the teacher was saying, "Oh, Dario, you keep looking at this." And I was saying, "I don't understand why this is here, miss, because my mum and dad, buy Brillo pads, and it's in a box like this." She said, "It's not a box." I said, "Well, it is a box." She goes, "Well, it's not, because you can't put anything in it. It's made of wood. You can't touch it, but there's no way of getting at it." And it was just, I just kind of wandered around, and bless her, it was called Miss O'Connell. and she was from Liverpool. And and I walked around and she goes, well, think about it. What is it? You've got paintings on the wall. And then it hit me. It was this moment. I went, it's a sculpture. And it was that moment that I thought, oh my God, this is a sculpture. And it's the first time, as a kid that you kind of, you think of sculptures, these big marble things, very kind of, from the Renaissance. And this was this moment that I just thought, fuck, oh my God, this is sculpture. And then I looked into Warhol, and that was one of the moments. And another time we went to the National Gallery, and they had Canalettos, and a lovely, lovely teacher or curator who showed us around. There's only about 3 or 4 of the kids who turned up, and she's kind of spoke about Canaletto and, all these kind of views of Venice and, the masks that they used to have, the masquerades, which they had before Mardi Gras. It's like their version of Mardi Gras before you had Lent. And where everyone wore masks, so everybody was equal. So you couldn't tell if you were rich or you were poor. And then they spoke about the vistas of Canaletto. And his dad was he's Canale, which actually means canal, but he was a theatre producer. And so his son, Canaletto, which means little Canale, that's what it actually means, Canaletto. He would do the stage sets. He grew up doing the stage sets for his dad's plays. So that's why he's so good at these vistas going in. And so, they're all part of the grand tour. So all the English aristocracy would go to Venice, they go to Rome, they go to Florence, and basically they were tourist pictures. But what Canaletto did, because that was his market, he would paint them. But if there were shops that were ugly, he'd paint them out. So what you're getting is this real idealized view of Venice, of this idea of perfection, because he just painted his first painting sets. He just knew how to paint that vista, but also just paint the things that he wanted to make it even more desirable, more sellable. And they're the 2 things that got me into art. And when I had the money, I kind of thought, I want a Warhol. I want to buy a Warhol. But Warhol screen print, I couldn't afford an original. But I love the soup cans. And so I'd saved up. It was $3,000. And it was before internet. Some kids don't know. There was a time before internet and then died. We are of the age. We know there was. And people go, wow, there was a time there was no internet. And even that seems foggy now. And so I'd have to make calls. And I say, look, I'm after this. And then they send you pictures. And then we had dial-up. And then, so we had arranged for myself to go over. And I went over $3,000. And I couldn't afford the tomato. So the flavor I bought was hot dog bean. Not the best of flavors, but no, because they were done in 2 portfolios. So there was 10 in the first one. Tomato is the one that still people, it's tomato, which I get. So I went over and I bought it. But then I'd kind of $5,000, and there was also Keith Haring there. And so I bought a print from them, and it's a dealer called Dom Tagliatella. He's a Dom Tagliatella. He's like Italian American. He was a big guy smoking cigars, and he was brilliant. And I still see him when I go to New York. He's kind of very much older now. He's got the suits, and he's still the and he's brilliant. He's like real Manhattan dealer. So I bought those from him. But then I'd kind of pushed my credit cards too much. And I kind of, with my partner, I said, look, she goes, look, we're going to have to sell them. I said, well, where do you sell these? So, because I didn't really know the art market, so we had to sell them at auction. So I sold them at Christie's. But when I went there, I bought them for, let's say, £3,000 a pound. With the exchange rate, the equivalent, or $3,000 equivalent, they kind of sold for nearly 3 times as much. And when I kind of, and I remember going there, talking to the guy there, and I said, wow, I goes, that was lucky. And he said, why? What do you mean? He said, well, just that, I bought them for $3,000 because, they were like provenance. So I get the bill of, And he said, well, no, that's what they go for. And I said, well, why wouldn't people? And this is my naivety, but also that kind of, I said, well, why wouldn't you just go to America? He goes, people don't want that. People want to come to Cork Street and they want to buy them here or Cork Street or at auction houses, because they know that they're getting the real thing. Now on the internet, you can type in everything and find the reality, the price of everything. But then you have to go to places that you trusted. So then I thought, I had this money, and I said to Jackie, Jack, why don't we go over and just buy some more? Because I can buy two and have money left over for the one. So we went there, bought two, had a bit of a holiday, came back, doubled, buy three, doubled, and then kept and built up my own collection. Yeah, and that's what we did. And then jealous after the Lehman Brothers crash. That's when I kind of thought, do you know what? I sense things are changing, and I said to Jack, I want to open up a print studio because I used to do. I went and studied. I didn't study. I went to kind of evening courses to do silk screen printing because I was kind of looking. That's how Warhol did it. That's how Keith Haring did them. And and it wasn't really a cool thing then. But I kind of went to the Working Man's College in Camden, and yeah, and that's how I got into screen printing.
I'm not even sure. You just shared so much. Like, that was so easy. I just wound you up with one question. And
yeah, no, sorry, I can't stop. Once I start.
No, it's great. Okay, so, so then you created Jealous. And first of all, it's a great name. But second of all, like, so now you're doing screen printing. So, like, why screen printing? Of all the different mediums you could have chosen at that time, I mean, I love screen printing. I've done it throughout my life. My father's a priest, and when we were young, we used to do screen prints as like church events and stuff. We would make posters and shirts and all kinds of stuff like this. So, like, my dad used to hand cut his stencils with an X-Acto blade in newsprint.
Paper cut stencils. That's what we still do that, and when we do live printing, we still do that. Screen printing is because, that's how Warhol did his prints. They were screen printed. And so, and also, now in retrospect, I'm glad I chose it anyway, because etching and it woodblock prints. I love the aesthetic, but the work involved, that's really why. And I'm not a great screen printer, if I'm completely honest with you. But in the studio now, that we've kind of really raised it to this level, which is like kind of quite, we're really good at what we do. Now, I'm not of that level, but so I got the keys. To Jealous because I kind of was going to get it before the Lehman Brothers crashed. But then I actually got the keys to Jealous the day the Lehman Brothers crashed. And it was like, oh. It was like, oh. And then there was a guy we used to do screen printed T-shirts with. He used to run a company called Toxico. His name was Jez. And he used to do these anarchist T-shirts. Now, I used to help him out at Camden Market and he's still got a place in Tottenham, and he was part of this hot rod tattooed crowd, psychobillies. It was cool. And I told him that I wanted to do this as a print studio, and he was doing T-shirts, and he still does the Las Vegas clothes show. I haven't seen it, but I still go online to check if he's still around. He's still doing it. And he said, "Yeah, do you know what? I'll come in business with you." But anyway, that aside, the T-shirts we used to sell, and when we stopped, they were his T-shirts, but I'd help him sell them. I'd help him kind of rack the T-shirts. But I had found one in my car, which I used to clean the back of the windows. Now, which is ages ago, and you look at it and you kind of think, wow. And, this is how much the world has changed. The two T-shirts that sold the most, that we kind of seen, all the kind of, the Camden Market, where it was slightly more alternative. It was a picture of a Glock handgun. It was like a pistol, but it was green. The color was green on a black T-shirt, and it had the word Greenpeace, but Piece on it instead of Greenpeace. Greenpeace. Kids loved it. They fucking that T-shirt just went. But then there was another one. This is the one that I found, and I remember looking at it because I thought, you always keep something in the car because it's got an old car, so it steams. Like when you get into it, you have to wipe it down. And I looked at it, and I think you cannot wear this T-shirt now. And what it was, in England we had the IRA back in the 80s, and they were, and their symbol was the balaclava. The balaclava they pulled down. And this was a picture. So it had the balaclava on, and the words printed on top of it, which said, "Terrorism is for the few of us left who aren't afraid to get our hands dirty." Now, I looked at that T-shirt and I thought, oh my God, we were fucking printing these and selling these in Camden Market. I thought, well, you can't do that anymore, can you?
No, you would be put on some watch list.
Yeah, well, yes, well, absolutely. But anyway, so this is Jez. And I phoned him up on the day I got the keys. And I said, Jez, he lived around the corner. I said, Jez, do you want to come down? And he said, well, what do you mean? I goes, I've got the keys to the place. This is happening. And he said, I can't. And I hadn't spoken to him for about 2 months because it takes so long to to exchange the contracts and to do, because we bought the place. He said, oh, I can't, Dario, I'm leaving London. I goes, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to Zurich to open up a tattoo parlor. And I went, you're going to fucking Zurich to open up? How does that help me? And he goes, well, I hadn't heard from you for 2 months. And I was getting bored here, and but he came back after. But anyway, so that was it. The Lehman Brothers had crashed. And Jez was fucking off to Zurich to open up a tattoo parlor. I don't think he was on heroin, because they love, they'll give you methadone in Switzerland. They'll keep you going. That's how efficient they are. They don't let you sleep. Like, come on, keep going. But anyway, so I went home and I pulled up the car and I was like, what the fuck have I done? What have I done? And 2 doors down where I used to live, there's a guy called Matthew, and he pulls up. It was Friday. I'm getting out the car, and he's got his bike, and he had his dog called Sid. And he stopped. He goes, oh, hello. I goes, you're all right. And we didn't even know our names, but he knew that I'd screen printing at home, because he'd walked past with his dog, and I'd screen print in the front room, which is by the thing. So he knew that. And I said, oh, I thought I'll be polite. And I said, oh, so, ready for the weekend? And he said, it's going to be a great weekend. And I went, it was a Friday. And I went, all right, so why is that then? He said, oh, I've just resigned from my job. I goes, all right. And what did you used to do? He goes, I was a primary school teacher. I goes, all right. I goes, so what are you going to do now? He goes, I'm going to take a year off now and just do the things I used to love, or do things. And I said, what's that? And he said, screen printing. Now, and this is genuine, and I don't believe in fate. Thank you, God. But at that moment, it was like, what? All of this happened. And I'd never spoken to him. And I said to him, can I come talk to you? And I did. And he kind of worked for a screen print studio. They did Peter Blake's. And they did, Peter Blake's the one that I remember. But then he also worked for another company that used to do the screen printed decals that you'd put on model airplanes, Airfix models that you'd make, that you put them in water. They were screen printed. But then he'd gone off to university, and there he went to Manchester, and it was part of the Hacienda days. And he kind of then became screen printing with a company there. He got addicted to smack, but then became a screen printer there, doing billboards, all for the Hacienda. So they do all the Hacienda billboards. And if you go to our website, it's Matthew Rich, and there's actually a little print of the Hacienda timesheet that they had. And I started it with him. Matthew was really, really good printer. I was a good front man. And so right at that start, when people say, God, do a new print studio, I goes, yeah, we're new, but we're just brilliant, because we've been, we've already printed for that Peter Blake, we just kind of, I bigged it up. But to be honest, for 2-3 years, it was, you know what? It was lucky that I had Terramundi that funded Jealous. That really funded Jealous. The money we made, it took about £250,000 for those 3 years, until slowly. But then we kind of started to get. Then we got this big job from this, funnily enough, Swedish. What's his name? He's Russian, but a Swedish publisher. And he gave us a big job, and we were standing outside. By that time, there was 5 of us, and they were saying, that's a big job. And he paid us 50%. And they said, where are we going to do it? Because we'd already taken over the gallery and printing there. And I was standing outside having a cigarette, and I saw a for sale sign just about 3 doors down. And it said flat for sale. And I said, we're going to buy that flat and turn it into another print studio. It was close to ours. So I bought the flat. We got a mortgage on it with the deposit. And we ripped out this whole flat and turned it into this print studio. But of course, we had the washout booth. So in Crouch End is where we started. So we'd have to come out the front and go along the pavement and then open up the door and go up to this first floor. And there was this fucking trail of wet and ink all the time going in. So you could see it from our door going about 4 doors down to the next place. And then people going up the stairs. After about 3 weeks of us doing this, I had a phone call. And they said, oh, someone wants to talk to you. And I said, oh, is this Dario Illari? I went, yep, speaking. He said, oh, you've just moved into, I don't know, 23 Park Road. Our gallery was 27 Park Road. I goes, yeah. And he goes, on the first floor, he goes, yeah. He goes, you're not living there, are you? And I went, no. He goes, get out. This is after 3 weeks. So then I kind of thought, fuck. And so we had the place here in Shoreditch, whereas it belonged to my brother. But because I didn't really get on with my parents, they both died and they left the building to my brother. But he'd kind of said, look, let's go halves on it, but you've got to run it for me. So you pay me the rent for 2 floors and you can have the other 2 free. And he wrote it, which was lovely of him. He's 14 years younger, as he should have, because I used to change his nappy when he was born. But anyway, he's lovely. His name's David. And so we turned it back into a flat and we rented it out, which I had to pay the mortgage. And then we moved here and we just moved into the top floor. So it's got 4 floors. So I moved into the top floor. And because all the deals that we'd been doing, I had about £70,000 in cash, in money, which I was going to do, which we were going to use to do the whole floor up. We had the front of the building. And on the ground floor, every time I'd go past, I'd look at it and there was a cafe. There was a cafe there, and I'd look at it and I thought, because we were just a print studio. Well, we were just about to open the print studio. And I looked at it and I thought, if I could have a gallery as well, I would love that. So I'd always the guy was there and the guy would be outside his Turkish show. He was having a cigarette one day. He goes, hey, Daddy, he goes, I'm going. And I went, you're going? And he said, yep. And he goes, and I said, so what are you doing with the place? He goes, well, I'm putting the lease up for sale. You know, so it's got so many years left. Even though my brother and I, at this point, owned the freehold. Once you have a leasehold here in England, we can't kick you out because you have a right to stay. But because he had already a business, it's called, you sell it with a thing called goodwill. It's because basically you come into the building and already you can see the books and you're earning. You don't have to build the building up. You can either make it better or kind of perhaps let it go worse. But you're already starting there. You're earning £2,000 a week. He wanted £70,000, which was the same amount of money. I went, and would you go for 70? He goes, yeah. I went upstairs and I just got this lump of money, which was in 2 shoe boxes. I goes, that's 70,000. He goes, there you go. And he went, you want to buy it? I goes, £70,000. And so it took about 3 weeks and I gave him the money. Then of course, Jackie, she goes, this is all good and well, but you had that £70,000 which you'd written down to spend the money upstairs. But now you've got upstairs no money and another floor. And I went, we just got to remortgage the house. And Jack was like, fuck. But you know, the one thing, we're no longer together. She was kind of, but you know, still my business partner, and some fucking thank God, because she's the one who makes it. I have the ideas, but she's like really good with the money. She said, well, we can remortgage the house. Yeah. And so we had a concrete floor, but it looks lovely. And, you know, when you come to London, you come see it. And that's it. And slowly we've taken the whole building over. And that's where we are.
That's an amazing story. I love it. I mean, that's the thing is like, you know, best laid plans and like, you know, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But like sometimes things just happen the way they're supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Now, you said something earlier about that you don't think you're a good printmaker. Well, I'm interested in what to you constitutes a good printmaker versus somebody who's not as quote unquote like good.
Well, technically, I'm not that good. Now, what I am really, really good at is seeing the artists that come into us to look at the artwork. And really, a print studio, it's an odd place. It sits in between the artist and a gallery. And so what it is, it's a place where all bets are off because there's always a frisson between a gallery and an artist. And, you know, and galleries will say, oh, Dario, artist, all I'm doing is getting calls, blah, blah, blah. Have you sold anything? Have you sold? Have we not sold that? Have you shown? How's that work going? Have you put that up? Did you put it up? What about that collector I put you in touch with? And he said, they're always just fucking always asking. Then you talk to the artist. They say, my fucking gallery. They're doing a fucking art fair. And, they said they're going to take the new body of work. They're not just taking the new body of work. And they say it's not selling. How are they going to know it's not selling if they're not fucking showing it? And so there's a frisson, shall we say, where when everyone's selling, everyone loves everybody. The artist loves the gallery because, they're selling loads for me. The gallery love the artist. Because he's so lovely. It's when things aren't right. But a screen print studio, all bets are off. I'm here to bond up with the artist and understand what they want from the print. Obviously, it has to be about selling, but it's, they said, well, I want it to feel like this. I want it to look like that. I want it to get this across. That's the artist. But then you talk to the gallerist. It's Dario. It's like, listen, I'm going to try and make it happen to sit inside your budget and we'll do it. Yes, we can do that. We can do that. We can do that. So, and we're kind of intermediate. But what's lovely is that and that's also the other thing. When the artist comes in, you get kind of fine artists. You get David Shrigley, you get the Chapman brothers, but then you get Ben Iron coming in, and then you get young graduates. Whereas to the outside world, it's when. Do you remember there was a song with Run DMC? And it was with the rock band as well. It was Run DMC
and the Aerosmith.
Now, the reason I'm using this example was because, again, as watching that, it'd have Run DMC, I don't know, it was Aerosmith first, and then Run DMC come in. Now, as a kid, you'd compartmentalize. What do you like? I like hip-hop. I like heavy metal. I like punk. I like indie. No one said they liked country and western at the time, but now even, but I don't mind country and western. But, But then I saw them playing, and I was thinking, wow, how come they're playing together? They're playing different genres of music. And that's what it is. It's like so many artists, people think, artists are fine artists. I wonder what they think of Ben Iron. I wonder what they think about graduates. When they come in, they're just artists. And they'll talk. So you get Ben Iron talking to kind of, the director of Alan Christea, because they're just all in that same gang. It's the art world. But from the outside, it has different faces. So why aren't I? So I'm good at talking to the artist and putting the right printer, but am I good with actually translating their artwork into a print? No, I'll be honest, partly because I can't be fucking bothered because it's so intense. I know what it has to be done to make it good, but I can't be bothered to learn it properly when there's people that are so much, they already know how to do it and they've been trained, they started off with Matthew, who's no longer with us. He's still alive, but it's just not with Jealous. And so then, sorry, Matthew.
Well, it's about putting the right tool for the right job. And in this case, you're talking about having the right person.
It's a relationship. It's a relationship that people at the printer has with the artist. It's my job, and they each have their printers. And the artists like that and say, that was really good. And I would say, like, if it's Will or Jess or Tom or Ines, I say, and that is your printer. Every time you come, you will have them. And they come in and because they work together because, they have to proof the print, So we make the screens and then you proof the colours. Can we just change it like that? And they have lunch together and they go, but for 1 week, they're this together. Then when the artist has okayed it, they say, yes, that's right. I'll run the edition. Okay, see you later. And they will come back to sign. So we have a proof, the art, it's called a BAT, bon à tirer, good to pull. It's that this is the one that all the prints must look like. And then, so it's a relationship. And it's one of those things. If you find a good printer and you like them, you go back to them. Same with a dentist, same with a mechanic, a plumber, electric. They're those things that you want a good relationship with, that you're going to use, and that's what artists do. And so that's what I'm good at. And I'm good at making people feel at home. And that's the most important thing. It's just make people feel at home, make people, it's just just be nice. Just fucking be nice to people. Just be nice. And there was some Egon Ronne. Do you know Egon Ronne? He was a chef. It was like old chef. Anyway.
Name's familiar.
It was just this old school chef. And I was at, I think it was Borders. And I was there waiting to buy books. It was at Christmas. They always have books near the front. Those instant buys where you kind of, $9.99, I'm going to buy that for them. And they had one, and it was like restaurants that chefs love, or chefs' favorite restaurants. Where do chefs eat? I think it was something like that. Where do chefs eat? And there was one, Inigo and Ronnie, and he said, "What's your favorite restaurant?" And he said, "One that makes you feel at home." And that's the thing, is that people forget so many galleries, so many things. They almost like to separate you to make you think, yeah, we have the knowledge, rather than be all encompassing. Just and art is that problematic thing. It's like, if I say, people come in and I say, "Oh, do you like that?" And straight away it's like, oh, do I like it? It's just not. I always say, look, it's not a loaded question. It's just not a loaded question. I'm just saying, do you like it? And that's the thing. Like, ceramics is different. Do you like that pot? Oh, I don't like the way it dribbles, because there's no aesthetic attached to it. You can talk, "Oh, it dribbles. I don't like the way the colors." With art, especially if they're kind of coming to a gallery, they're a bit more, oh.
Well, there is still that underlying like elitist and snobbery with it. Be not even just within the art world, but for the outsiders coming in, trying to approach it.
Of course, yeah. Absolutely. And we deal with collectors, and there's two types of collectors that they will buy. Sorry, I was just going. Before I say that, it's talking about what is art, because I have to do talks about that occasionally. What is art? What are prints? And so we had a show. I called it the Ideal Home Exhibition, the Jealous Ideal Home, and they have exhibition. They used to do these fairs called the Ideal, where all designers, they'd have all their wares, all their new designs, called the Ideal Home Exhibition. So we called it the Jealous Ideal Home Exhibition. Now, I collect loads of things from charity shops. I think you call them op shops.
Goodwill.
Goodwill, right. Okay.
Second hand.
There you go, second hand. And so I buy lots of stuff. I went through a phase collecting little Japanese robots. Then I kind of went on ugly British 1950s vases. Then I like Swedish glass. Then I like toys. Then I like this. I'd always collect, but just things out of the time, ephemera. Do you remember those little baby champagne glasses? Little champagne glasses, baby sham, right? And so I always leave the prices on. So we I just filled up the whole gallery, so it looked like a charity shop, like a Goodwill shop, and people could buy all these things at the price that was still on there. It wasn't about it, but they came with an essay written by Phyllis McKay. Phyllis McKay, she's a professor in philosophy at London University, and she does causality, whatever that means. But she also wrote about art and about what it is. And she wrote this lovely essay. So when you bought this, people would come in and go, "Oh my God, that little game called Mastermind. I remember this game from the 80s. I used to love this," and they'd buy that. And then there used to be this shampoo called Matey, which was done like a little kind of, it was a little sailor's hat, that kids used to love, a bubble bath. And people, "Oh my God, I remember that." Or the little champagne glass. "Oh my God, my gran had those. My mum had those." Curtains, kitsch pictures on the wall, an old clock, a little robot. Oh my God. Now, and then they come with the essay, and it's the notion of things being an aid memoir, things that help that this thing takes you somewhere else. So people weren't fucking buying the shampoo to wash their hair. They weren't buying the games to play. They were talking, because that was a portal that took them somewhere else. It reminded them of their childhood, which was their mother, their grandfather, their parents, their cousin, that time they went away on holiday, that thing. And they just remind you of these things. So you're not buying it to drink champagne or a vase. You're buying it because you think, "Do you know what? That reminds me of my gran when I was a kid. She always used to have in her kitchen." All those things. And it brings it back to that's what art is. Art is a portal. It's a portal that you look at it and it either does something to you and it takes you somewhere that you almost need that little thing to kind of get you in there, then it's worked. If it doesn't matter. I always think you've got to connect with it emotionally rather than intellectually. You can have different discussions, but it's got to move you. And that's what it is for me. It has to fucking move you. And so that's what that show was about. And I don't know what we were talking about. I'm sorry. I go on, don't I? I know what I'm like. Yeah.
I love it. No, feel free. It's great. Okay. Well, I have some very specific questions about.
Yes, and I will answer it.
No, no need. Your stories are great. Don't stress over it. So I have many friends who are printmakers, and I've done printmaking off and on throughout my years. And one of the conversations we often have, because I'm also a professor, so we're
Right.
often worried about like toxicity and
Right.
the chemicals and all this kind of stuff, whether or not to use oils and blah 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 blah. But also on the other and sort of on the flip side, sort of a combination question with that is like how important is using sort of what I would call like archival or good quality paper, like because you're in the business, you're doing it
Yeah.
now. So like, are people using the alternative inks? Are they using sort of non-traditional materials, non-archival materials? Like, what are sort of the ways that people are utilizing screen printing these days?
Okay, right. Now, screen printing has had that kind, I suppose in the last 15, 20 years, has had that renaissance. Especially the more we've gone digitized, it's become that kind of, wow, it's something real. You mix the inks, you kind of, you make it on paper. That's why, do you know risographs?
I do. I did a series on
Right, I
risographs.
love Risograph because that's aesthetic. It's like kind of a failed Japanese idea of making really good fast printing for the office, but too much of a pain in the ass. But it was like 200 a minute, with drums. So you actually make a stencil, you put it in there. They only come up to A3 size, except there are about 5 A2 machines in the world. And I was going to get one because I thought, I love that. But A2 size, it's interesting, but it was thousands and thousands. Now that has
Well,
become
the
that.
drums would be incredibly
Yes,
expensive as
it
well.
really, and that was the price as well. It is the drums, and you'd always want to keep the black. You don't want to wash out the black or the CMYK colors. So you'd need about 12 drums, which are they like £4,000 each. Really expensive setup. But A2, because risographs now are kind of A3, so two times, so it's double the size of that. There. Imagine that. Then they become interesting at A2.
Just to be clear for the American listeners, that's an A4 is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. An
Right.
A3 is like a legal size piece of paper.
Which is double, yes. A3, the
Yeah,
smaller the number, it doubles each size. Yeah, I'm sorry. Right.
it's okay. No, no, I know it. I live in
Yeah.
Europe, and but not every listener understands that. So,
Okay.
standard piece of paper, twice the standard piece of paper.
Right. So with the inks, when we started, I didn't want to be oil based. I wanted to be water based. So our studio is water based. We're a water based studio. Right. The trouble with water based is that's what everyone learns with when they go to colleges. They go to college, they do courses, they do water based. So it's always been the lesser brother, shall we say, the inferior brother to oil based. Professional studios are oil based. Yeah, but and so we went to a lot of symposia, on inks, and we got geeky on it and see which inks and what's the difference, what inks which are the best water based inks, and there's Lascaux which comes from Switzerland, which is really disappointing because when we have this extender base, when you kind of mix the inks with this kind of gel, and it smells, I don't know if you've ever used it, it smells of kind of almond paste, like Dr. Pepper's, right? And I was really disappointed with Matthew saying, I said, I love the smell. I'd go and smell it. He goes, you do know they just put that in there to make it smell nice. And I went, what? I goes, but there's no, but he goes, well, no, of course not. And I thought, oh. And that was very disappointing, but they'd only put that smell in to make it smell nice. However, water based, really, really lovely inks, and they dry very flat and they don't dry very quickly. That's the trouble with water based. Sometimes it dries quickly, but Lascaux inks, they take them a long time to dry. And then we went for TW, really good opacity. And then Speedball we just used for the blacks. Really lovely, fucking velvety, dense blacks. But although if you just pass them with your nail, you just scuff so easy. And when you make a print, you have to be difficult. And then once the print is finished, we have to kind of get glassine paper and put it on top. And then the print, again, turns it into a pain in the ass. And one of the nicest, so we spend a long time to make them look good. And the only difference is with oil base that it sits on top of the paper. It sits on top of the paper and it doesn't sink into it. With water based, it sinks into the paper and therefore the paper cockles. Cockle is when the paper does this. It kind of undulates. And so you have to go against that by making the paper thicker. You have to buy thicker paper but water based, it sinks in there. And so that was one of the issues. But we did a show and we were next to Artisan. really good printers. I think they print they printed for Patrick Caulfield. They printed for, what's the woman who did op art? She's Bridget Riley. And they said to me, and I was talking to the woman there, runs it. She goes, Dario, because we were the new kids on the block. She goes, oh, Dario. She goes, are you starting to have trouble to buy the ink? So I goes, why? What do you mean? Oh, everyone's going water based. And I goes, we are water based. And she went, really? And she looked in, she called the others, and she kind of, they all looked at them thinking, wow, you can't tell. And that was the greatest compliment from a print studio that was oil based. And when they said, oh, are you having trouble buying the oil based? I said, well, we're water based. And then for her to look closer and think, oh my God, they looked like, you have to play harder to get the aesthetic. You have to kind of sometimes kind of put a slight sheen in it of the varnish in it. So to get that look. But yes, we've managed that. You work harder to get the look that people kind of are used to, or to get that oil based.
All right. Within that question, though, so let's dig into that one a little more pedantically.
I like that.
You just mentioned like using Lascaux and using Speedball and using all these different kinds of brands. Like in my background, like when I did it, generally like people would have their favorite. Like they would have a brand and they bought every color in that brand. They used that brand. They thought that brand sort of was their thing. Or do you find that like you were saying, like Speedball's black has certain characteristics that another brand's black doesn't have? So do you like mix and match your different brands to create different qualities and criteria?
Yes, I mean the black we can use TW. We use TW as our mainstay. That's our main brand, and Lascaux and Speedball very very slightly. But we'll mix the extender, which is kind of what when you put the ink in, it just kind of stretches out the ink. It dilutes it. It's like a concentrate of cordial with water, but you kind of mix it down. And we will use Lascaux base to put into another ink because that dries more slowly. And so when we're doing live printing, you don't want it to dry quickly because it blocks up the screen. So you want an ink that dries slowly, but then it's a pain in the ass when people want to take it. So we always take hair dryers and you hair dry them quickly. So yes, we do. The one thing, I mean, I suppose the only different thing is that TW, most inks dry flat. They dry flat. But what we use it about TW, and we use this other ink called Nyla Bag. And that actually is oil based, but we just use that because it doesn't, as does TW, it doesn't dry flat. It's like when you paint your walls with paint, it dries. There's a slight thickness to the paint, and it dries and this ink does that as well. So it doesn't dry flat. So what's really nice when you put it through a coarse screen, so you get more ink. Like let's say if you want to put letters, you have a print and you just want to kind of Dario, you know what? I want a red background. I want black letters, but I want them to look as if they're standing out. Right, perfect. You print the red, then you print. You mix in the TW, and you don't use Lascaux medium. Use their medium, and then you print, and you just leave it there. And the more it dries, you print it again. You dries, you print again. You dry, print again, and it creates this very very small. Each time it goes up like a 1/12 of a mil. So after a time, but when you look at it, it has this. You kind of look at it and you think, is that sticking up? And when you touch it, you feel it. You can feel that it's created this ridge, and that's nice. So you can play around with the inks. So yes, we do use, but on the mainstay, good quality ink is TW. TW and Lascaux are the ones we use the most. As for paper, we just use cotton. All the paper that we use is cotton. We don't use wood pulp paper. And there's a company called John Purcell, and they distribute all the papers to all the big print studios. And they use a paper called Somerset. Now Somerset, and it's made Somerset Mill, and they said, and he said, "Oh, do you want to come on a visit to see how the paper's made?" And we're like, "Yeah." So we went to this mill, and it's just so interesting. They use the water of the stream. Now what they do is this: the third husk of the cotton bugs. The first one they use medical things with the cotton. The second one, I think, they use T-shirts to make clothing. And the third, which is too rough, they just use it for paper. And so they kind of put it into this big vat and they put water in and they put, I think it's called a size, which helps break it down, but it gives it that kind of tenacity, that it makes it gel together. And the water from the stream comes out, and they said, and the water goes back cleaner than what it was. Okay, that's good. And you just see it. They runs on these big. Do you know when you go to hotels? I don't know if they have them here, but when you go to England, you go to hotels and we want toast in the morning. You put the bread, and it's this kind of toaster that's a grill that just rolls and it falls off the end, so it's continually going. Not the toast you have at home. You pop them in, they pop out. It's like this. It's without anything on the top. It's just this grill, and it keeps going along this grill, so the paper comes down. And when you have the edge, it's got the edge. It's kind of rough. It's called a decal. The paper's got a decal edge, and the decal is actually the edge of this machine, or this kind of this grill that's going at the paper, and it drains out the water underneath, and that goes back into the stream. And so that was really lovely. But what I really loved is that they have someone, and they comes in massive rolls. I think 1.5 meters, 1.5 meters, was six. Well, actually, no, it's more than 6 foot.
No, it's just about 6 feet.
Yeah,
because I'm 6'2" and I'm 185.
Oh, right. So 6.5 foot. Right. Okay. And there's someone, because it comes in from the mill, you have lots of the insects from the thing that are in the paper. And so as it's rolling, he puts a little piece that then they have to be cut out. And he said, it happens. And he said, but the Japanese, when we export, they hate it. You cannot have, if you have one insect, you could lose the whole order. They just won't order from. Whereas us sometimes, and there's something really nice because they're almost like they're preserved, like as in, they're not just squashed. They're perfectly squashed in there, like you see, like kids with seashell. Sometimes you get stoned, you break them, and you see like a fossilized thing. That's what they look like. And they had a whole box of them there, all the bits they cut out, and I was going through them. And I said to John after, I said, do you know what? I shouldn't have asked. What do they do with all those little bits of paper with the inside, all different types? Because they just bin them, they just chuck them. I said, you couldn't ask. And he said he did, but they didn't want to give them to me. Maybe because they thought that I was using it to say, look how bad it is. I don't know why. I just like to see all these little insects. But that's the paper we use. And it is archival. So, yes, we do that. And a lot of people now are becoming so much more careful about longevity. Because when I used to buy these pop art prints, it's people just putting things in front of windows. And UV light just fucking destroys things. The yellows go to mustards. The reds go to this kind of just like washed out kind of orangey. Blacks aren't so much affected. They're the two main colors, but they really get destroyed. And this is the whole argument now with people having digital prints, inkjet prints, archival inkjets. They've got but it's funny because we actually do framing. We've got a part of our company that we do framing. And the thing is, even when we used to get them framed, even if you use UV glass, UV perspex, you're not, or you've got plexiglass, they say you should never let it in direct sunlight. Direct sunlight, you can have a room which has got a lot of really light ambient light, but as long as there's not direct sunlight, it won't change the color. It's direct burning, the sun going into it. And I was talking to a collector. He said, oh, Dario, you do jealous, da, da, da. And he goes, oh, I've just bought, I can't even remember what he bought. And I said, well, and he said, I've got them in this big orangery where, I don't know, it's like this corridor where it's just all just fucking just sunlight coming in. And I said, oh, have you got it going in there? Because I hope they're framed in UV glass. He went, no. And but that's bad. He goes, do you know what? I thought it was just cheaper to change all the glass in all the house into UV. So there's UV glass. So every window that he has is now UV. So he can get the cheaper glass, but it's all UV.
Well, I've often wondered about that because, I'm a photographer also. So like this whole UV, loss of quality, all this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not sure how much I truly believe that glass barrier is really going to protect it over the course of a lifetime.
The thing that makes me think that is that when they say, yes, this has got 99.6% true view protection, and they say, but we still suggest that you don't put it in direct sunlight. And you kind of think, But why? If it's protecting it, why does it matter? Oh, well.
Well, it's still that 0.4% though.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So,
still going to get damaged.
but also when people come in and they say, "Oh, can I have UV glass?" And I say, "Where are you going to show? Is it direct sunlight? Because you shouldn't do it." "Oh no, it won't be." I said, "Just save yourself. You don't actually need it." They say, "Oh, but I want it." If you want it, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, archival and even artists, that the materials they use now, they're looking that they're more archival, that they have a friendlier carbon footprint, shall we say?
Which goes back to that the like inks themselves, because at one point I was part of the like OSHA, the health and safety standards for the
Yeah,
school, and they were talking about how we should even say stop using a water-based inks and go to like vegetable-based inks and these kinds of things. And I'm just like, I think that's a bit extreme.
I think. Do you know what? I think that the truth is, it's okay. We made the decision with to go watering when we opened, and also to be honest with you, part of it was cost. It's actually if you can get the inks right, the look right, it's just so much cheaper because you don't have to spend as much money on the whole air extraction. Because it gives you a fucking headache. It's so intense, and then you have to have special washout rooms, and the chemicals you use have to go into containers. It's just like this whole big thing. But I think it will come. We did do vegetable dyes for someone. If you want that look. No, okay. What
For
I'm
the
saying?
listener, he's giving a questionable expression on his face.
What do I think? I think you have to work with it. If you kind of want the look of this really tight silk screen print, you can't do it. But maybe you can mix it in, and with so a percentage is that perhaps, but I don't think it's there yet. In the same way, 20 years ago, people didn't give a shit about about being a vegan, and so there wasn't that choice. Now the choice has responded to the need or to the desire of people. It's not as if, right, we've got loads of vegan, now everyone turn vegan. People are turning vegan and companies, right, okay, how can we monetize the fact that they become vegan? Right, let's offer this. So the more there's an appetite for it, it will definitely come. I mean, we were good to do the screen, the water based, but I suppose, it was basically because it was cheaper. I'll be honest, it was cheaper. And I didn't want to be in a room breathing in fucking chemicals. No one did. It's a health issue, but it's that thing. It began with us. It's like we don't want to be unhealthy.
Well, I mean, even beyond that, though, I mean, it's still it's the speed of it, the fun
Yeah,
of the process itself. Like
yeah,
when you start getting too technical down like that,
yeah,
oil based and all this,
yeah.
it sort of sucks some of the fun out of it. Like to me, we used to do it like in our basement as kids.
Yeah.
Like it's just fun, and
You've got to
when you
have
get
fun.
sometimes when you get too serious with it, too technical, too this and that,
Yeah,
sometimes it sucks the life out of
yeah.
it.
I mean, that's the one thing I like when we do live printing. We do live printing at shows, and we do paper cut stencils. Because here we've done 104 color screen prints. Yes, we've just done that level. And there's one of my ones that I should have actually brought one down, and it's printed by an artist called Rachel Howard. It's only 7 colors, but you look at it, it just looks like a wet ink drawing, and it's lovely. But it's a skill to do that. I love those kind of paper cut stencils, and we just cut them out, and you get people to print, and people have a go with you, and people have fun with it. And the last thing, and the one that we did not long ago, and it was like somebody said, "Oh, what are you going to be printing?" And I said, "I don't know." What we printed, it was kind of slightly, well, I don't know, was it politically incorrect? It was funny. Do you remember the song called "Come On Eileen"? Come on, Eileen. Da, da.
Sure.
Yeah, I forget who's. I forget what they were called. But anyway,
I will Google it while you keep talking. Go
yeah,
ahead.
right. And so we did this one print. Come on, Eileen, and I want to hear who it was now.
It says Dexy's. No, that
Dexy's,
can't be.
yeah, Dexy's Midnight Runners. Right. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dexy's Midnight Runners. Okay. And so instead of printing "Come on, Eileen," we wrote we printed "I Came on Eileen," and it was a winner. It was a winner. Everybody laughed. One or two people weren't too happy. but they were really good. And the way you always get around it and things like that is just, and truthfully, because at the moment we're supporting the Tottenham Food Bank, because fucking this is all a bit fucked here at the moment. We just say, once you say, yeah, I know it's not, yeah, I know, but all the money goes to the Tottenham Food Bank. So we can do what we want then. We can do what we want. But yeah, and it's one color paper cut stencils, and they're fun and they're of the moment. And you get a blade, you cut it out in the newsprint, and it's just fun. It's just fun.
Indeed, yeah. No, okay. You again, like I'm fascinated because I'm from academia and all this kind of crap. Like, but you're literally like boots on the ground, producing and selling and engaging with all the public and all this. And so I've got lots of questions about like editions. I'm always fascinated by because there's this like ebb and flow. Like at one point there's like do a big edition, then there's this sort of do small editions and then tiered pricing or not tiered pricing. Like how what's the current favor on all these kinds of ideas of editions?
Let's go for tiered pricing. Now, we make lots and lots of editions. And really, I only tier prices. If you go onto my website, it's about 400 different artists. I only tier price for 2 artists. One, Chris Levine. Chris Levine, he's famous for having done the portrait of the Queen with her eyes shut. But he likes to have the prices tiered. He likes that. And he's always done that. So I do the prints for them. I publish, but he kind of more or less, look, Dario, I want to sell at that price. The first 25, I want at that price. The next 25, and I'll just say whatever you want. That's fine. I don't fight people too much, because the artists, I know their market. Then the other person that I tier with is David Shrigley. David Shrigley, Turner Prize nominee. He did blah blah. Lovely artist. And again, when I started to make the prints for him, I had to fall into. You have to fall into what he said. Look, Dario, I'm already selling at galleries. That's the price they sell the prints for. That's the edition size they already do. So you have to fit in with people. You have to fit in. So that's the thing with tiered pricing.
But wait, I have a question within that.
Yeah.
Why is so let's say somebody did an edition of 100. Well, no, it's not why do they do it, but my question, when I was young, and I started collecting my own works and sharing and all this kind of stuff, I like buying artist proofs, which is pre number 1, and I'm a huge fan of number 1.
Everyone loves number 1.
Yeah, if I can collect an edition of something, I want number 1. But yet, under the idea of tiered stuff, number 1 is the cheapest, and number 100 is the most expensive.
Yes.
So why that seems backwards to me.
Right. Okay. Right. We're in the studio and we kind of make the prints. Now, the number 1. Every time a lot of artists they sign. And they say, Dario, can you number them? Absolutely. So what I'm saying, it's the number 1 is the number 1 by chance. It's not the first one that was ever printed. Basically, you print the first color, it goes down, it goes to the bottom of the pile. Then you get it, and it stays at the bottom. And then, so it's just by chance that when you number it, and sometimes when I number them, I look at it. And I number them backwards. So when we sell them, the number 1 is on the top, So if it's an edition of 100, I go 100 of 100, 99 of 100, and you put it on the pile. So when you sell, that your number 1's already at the top. When you get to the number 1, you write number. I look at it and I was thinking, you happen to have been the number 1 just by chance. Just by chance. You are just by chance number 1. But you are wanted by so many people now because you are the number 1. But there is no reason why it's just chance.
I agree. And technically, it could not be the best one because it could have gotten mixed up in the pile. Maybe it was number 99 that was printed, but it got shuffled around.
Absolutely.
But my wonder is with this tiered printing or pricing thing, number 1 is literally the cheapest of them.
Well, it is. But, okay, it is the cheapest. But that's not to do with the numbering. But also, when you sell at auction, will a number 1 sell for more than a number 12 or a 13? The only time I've seen that happen is, funnily enough, is with the number 1 tomato soup can by Warhol, because the standard price by
legitimately,
that's the one. I've got the number because that kind of started off so many different things. But really, does number one, maybe it'll sell it for a bit more, but not really. Does an AP sell for more? Not really. Not really. So the reason with tiered price, with tiered pricing, which I don't really like. Also, I'm lazy, but the reason people do it is really, and genuinely, is to give people fucking fear of missing out. The fear of missing out. Oh my God, I'm really going to buy it. I'm really going to buy that. But then it also sometimes has the opposite of thinking, oh, I've missed it now at the first tier. Oh, what's the second tier? Oh, the first tier was 500. This is 700. Oh, I don't want it anymore. I don't want it. So sometimes it can act differently. But the thing is once it has a secondary market that people see it going to auction, then they think, oh, right, I know they sell them for 5-6 grand. So they become slightly irrelevant. And then the first, second, third tiers go quite quickly with some artists, David struggling. Then they slow down. Then they start going to auction. They go for more. Then they sell again. People see at auction. This has been underpinned at auction. I don't really like it because it is kind of making people, you're going to miss out. Come on. And that is, I don't like that. Buy it because you like it. And, and a lot of artists, some that won't, and it becomes more from the street art crowd, not so much now. I remember a street artist, quite well known, came to us and was saying, Dario, could you give me a quote on 100 prints? I went, yeah. And he showed me the image. I go, so it's going to be so many colors. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, right. He goes, yeah, print 100, but I won't do it because it's going to be an edition of 150. And I said, well, do you want me to quote you for 150? And he said, no, 100. I goes, well, how does that work? And he said, well, I'm going to number 1 to 50 and then 101 to 150. And I goes, why would you do that? He goes, oh, because I'm pretty sure I can sell out 100, but I don't know. And I said, I'm not doing that. That's bollocks. I'm not doing that. No. And you kind of get that. And it's more that street art crowd that are more concerned that if you don't sell out and you don't sell out quickly, then you're not as good as you used to be, or you're not good. Whereas you get big artists, like kind of, Tracy Emin, or you get this thing. You can see some of her editions that have just been there for quite a while. And just because they haven't sold out in that first month, now she is, though, because she got this cancer scare, well, she had cancer and she's fine. But so many people were just going, quick, get them now before she died. Get them. Get in there. Come on, boys. And it's like, fucking hell, the world. But so yeah. So I forgot what I was saying. But anyway.
We were on tiered pricing.
Yeah, and tiered pricing. And so that's, yeah, I don't really like tiered pricing, but I'll play the game and I'll do tiered pricing. But it's done for fear, to making people, the whole thing, you got to buy it now. And that's the one thing I don't like. Buy it if you love it.
Agreed. But what about edition sizes? Like, because this has been, I'm a photographer. So like in photography, it used to be that we should do big editions, back in the 80s and 90s. And then now, of course, I'm hearing it's more like do editions of like 3, 5 or 7 prints and that's it and be done with it. So like, is there that similar sort of fluctuation in sort of edition sizes in the screen printing world?
Once you kind of get over, and I don't know why they're in 25s, but I think once you go over 125, it kind of becomes a bit, it's limited, but it's not, 125, 250, becomes that real. And it's also, if you have smaller editions, we're actually with an artist right now called Charming Baker. There you go. That's what we're doing right now. Artist, an old friend, really good. And we're just doing these prints. They're going to be a kind of 36 by 28 inches. Okay, 90.
You don't have to do inches for me.
Okay, right. 90, but well, it actually be by 70 by about 85 centimeters. And we were just talking about it, and I was saying, look, it's really, really nice. It's quite big. And he said, yeah, let's not do a big edition. I said, look, we can do 25. We can do 25 plus 5 APs, 3 APs. And also, traditionally, you don't do more than 10% of the edition. You can do up to 10% of an edition of APs. So say it's tradition. So if you do 100, traditionally you can do 10 APs. Some people number them 1 of 10, some people don't. But that's how it kind of works. And so, 25, it's almost, if you were to do the same print of 50 and at 25, you're 25, it's almost, well, he wants to sell him for like £700. Okay, 700, but he's got a market, 750. If you do an edition of 50, then you kind of go, feels a bit much, there's 50 of them. So it's almost exclusivity. You're making that number to fit the price. It's that kind of balancing act. Could you sell 50? Yeah, you could sell 50, 600. You'd sell them all at 500. Yeah, it feels a bit thing. What about, yeah, I could sell 5. You'd sell 20, half of that at that price.
In my mind, I keep thinking like there's sort of like a backwards way of doing that for a lot of creative people, where they basically sit down and say, okay, I want to make £5,000. So if I'm going to make 50, I have to sell them for this amount of money in order to make £5,000. So like, it's sort of, saying like, my end goal is to create this amount of income off the entire edition, and then decide on the amount of the edition and the price of the edition to sort of backwards to get to that end amount of money that you desire to earn for the work.
Yeah, no, yes. But also, it's also that selling out. There aren't many people that kind of will get an edition of 50 will sell out. Even well-known artists. We work with and it's all to do with the image. It's to do with the image and the price. And it's those things that kind of do well. And the name, what it looks like, and the price. If you get those 3 factors right, it's like fucking. That's like you've created fucking meths, crystal meths of the highest degree. Yes, you have to get the good image, the right price. And so many young artists, they say, "Oh, let's sell it at that," and I say, you know what? That's really expensive. Once you charge something at about £1,000, you've opened up such a big choice of so many artists you can have. You can buy a little Tracy Emin print, that's not a great one, but you can buy one of them. You've opened up that door to so many other things for £1,000. Why are they going to buy yours? You've just fucking graduated. No one's heard of you. All you have is that image. And I always say, listen, it's best to sell 20 at £200 than none at 1,000. Because when you're young, you just want to get them on people's walls. You want to get them on people's walls. That's your point, to get them out, want people to like them. What people also like with editions, they love hand finishing. They fucking can't get enough of it. A bit of hand finishing. But they do. And it's nice because the artist has touched the work. He's made something. And, and it's nice. And sometimes artists say, oh, maybe I can do that. And I can. Please, people like that, because each one, though it's an edition, there's a nuance from the artist. Yes, they're signed in pencil. They're all signed. And the artist has worked with us and he's worked with, but he's actually got his hand. And there's something lovely about that. And there's something unique. Each one is slightly different. So, and people want that. And in a way, because I'm a collector, I don't overthink it. They're the kind of things I'd like myself. And then some artists say, oh, shall I sign on? Maybe it ruins it. Shall I sign on the back? What do you think, Dario? I'll say, I always prefer it when they sign my editions on the front. I do. I do. Because I'm looking at the signature. And it's as simple as that. Let's not overthink it. Oh, aesthetically, it's much cleaner. Yeah, but people want to show that. Or is it signed? Yes, look at it. Fucking look at it. It's signed, it's numbered, and people want that. Give people what they want. Unless they really have a thing about it. It's like David Strigley, he signs and numbers on the back, but sometimes he doesn't ever have a border. So when the print, he doesn't like borders, so the print goes up to the image, so it's painted up to all with, and you can still sign it, but he said, you know what, I don't mind signing them on the front if there's white paper that hasn't been kind of filled in with ink. But as they're all the same identity, he always makes them the same size. I'd rather just choose one thing. And so he always signs them at the back. And that's what he does.
I have this thing. Okay, so I went to school in San Francisco, and there was a place called Crown Point Press there.
Do you know Crown Point Press. Yes, I do.
One of the things I loved about Crown Point Press was that they had this entire sort of, I don't know what it was, a residency or some sort of thing, where they brought in artists who didn't work in paper and printmaking processes and had them do works on paper. I loved that. That's just good. Because it was the idea of taking like a sculptor or a painter and making them sort of work in a different medium and think differently about it. Like, so do you find that sometimes the not professional screen printer. So even your street artists and all these other kinds of people, when they come into printmaking, do they change? Do they do differently? Is it like, are the professional screen printers the sort of the better people that work with screen printing, or are the people who just sort of don't know the rules of what they can and can't do, the non-traditional people, sort of more exciting in the process?
I think when people come to the studio, we always, and they kind of people are quite honest. And again, it's that making people feel at home. They say, listen, Dario, I don't really know how to go about this. I'm thinking of this image. And then you just show them prints that you've made before. Listen, we can do that. Oh my God, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, you can do that. You can make the colors, you can create a third color, or we can deboss it. We can do lots of different. And so you're giving them knowledge. You are giving them knowledge. But you get two types of people that come in. One that people love, and also street artists, they are the ones that get it the most, in the sense because screen print is stencil. It's stencil. You make a screen with the gap. They cut down stencils, and it's the same. They look at it and they think, oh, you're just making a stencil. Yes, that's exactly, not just, but
on paper.
Yeah. You're doing a stencil on paper to spray on the wall. You're doing it on the screen to press ink. But it's the same thing. I suppose what they don't understand is the nuances you can have. Where there you can make a stencil to print over a stencil, which kind of with dots, so you can have fades. You can do different things. But you get two types. Ones that use printing for a currency, shall we say, that they understand it, and there's others that just they love the process. They love the process. So you get two types of people, because it is when you're making 25, 30, 50, 100 of something, it costs people a lot of money. It depends. If you want colors, it can cost, for a one color print of 25, 50, it's still going to cost you 1,000 to 2,000. But that, if you want 5, 6, 7, 8 colors, 14,000, 15,000, you have to think carefully. Yeah, you have to think carefully about it. But then you kind of think, yeah, but it's 125 of them plus the APs, and and I'm selling those for $1.5 grand each. If you're a big artist, then okay, that's 150,000. So that 14,000, becomes 10% of what you get. Yeah, and that's the rise of digital, and that's where digital fits in, because now you get the big artists. Gerhard Richter did a big show of massive inkjets, and artists now use inkjets. And we're a craft. There's a craft in doing silk screen printing, and you kind of think, people say, oh, it's digital. Now I understand why young artists come in. They have an image, and it's so complicated. If you break it down to silk screen, it's going to be like 20 colors. And it's going to cost thousands, and you have to do it all. You have to print. You mix all the inks, and inks go off. So you do kind of have to print it all at once. Now with digital, you still have to proof the colors, make sure that they're happy with the colors, and then you can print as they sell. You're still numbered, still signed, it's edition of 25. But they put them online now. They put them on their Instagram, and they can sell them. Oh, Dario, I've sold. Can I have another 5? Yeah, and they come in, they pay, they sign them, and off they go, and we tick it off. That's how many they've done. But the trouble is, it's like people kind of say, well, it's not the same, is it? And see, and I can argue for both sides. Being a screen print, no, it doesn't have that materiality. It doesn't have that process. It doesn't have. Okay, but because we used to be in a band years ago, and we used to play around with music, and we used to use a software called Cubase. Cubase was a Cubase for mixing. First it was 24 track, then we went to Cubase. Now Cubase was this it was a way of kind of mixing music. It was mixing music digitally. But then Pro Logic came along. Pro Logic. And then you'd have people in the music saying, oh yeah, oh that's nice. Oh, what did you use to mix it? It was like, oh, we use Cubase. Oh, we're doing Pro Logic. And it became this snobbery. And it's this snobbery. Right. So that's in the inside world. Now, outside, you and I, we're going out, we're listening, and we're having a drink in a bar. I say, Matthew, God, that's really nice. And you think, God, who is that? You don't go, yeah, I would have liked it, but it's not recorded on Cubase, or it's not recorded on Pro Logic. You don't give a shit how it's recording. It's how it makes you feel. It's how that piece of music makes you feel.
Well, but I'll give you a balance on that, because
yes,
like if
please,
I walk into if I walk into an art gallery and I see a series of editions that are done screen printed versus a series of editions that are digitally printed, I would be willing to pay more for the screen print than I would for the digital print.
Okay, okay, and like we're playing chess here, which I like. Okay, then, but you have an image that is screen printed and an image and a print, same series, same artist, doesn't matter. But you prefer the actual image of the digital. You're never going to buy the screen printed version because you don't like the image as much just because it's a screen print. You're not going to buy an image that you like less.
I might actually.
Really? Well, see,
I'm a huge fan of sort of the hand of the artist, the
yes,
practitioner,
okay.
the artistry of the creation versus just hitting print on a computer. Like,
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Because I'm a screen print studio. But
I was going to say, you should agree with this.
I do agree with you, but I also kind of, it's like I'm arguing against myself. But I do think, yeah, yeah. And I do agree. What I do agree is that sometimes it's choosing the paper, because going back to the paper is so important, because there's Sam, we did a print for someone and he wanted this really, really smooth, kind of looks like, well, this really smooth paper, but the colors he chose, and it's funny. And I said to Sam, I goes, is that digital? He goes, no, it's silkscreen. I goes, it fucking looks digital. He said, yeah, he wanted its silkscreen to look like digital. I went, why the fuck would you want that? He goes, I don't know. I don't know. But it did look like digital. But he wanted it silkscreen printed to look like digital. Well, and I didn't meet the artist. So I would have said, why? Why didn't you just go for digital? Because he wanted silkscreen, but he wanted it to look like digital. And it did. But it was the paper that made it do that. What the main difference is but now so many artists, they make it look like woodblock printing, and they say, oh, what's it? Oh no, it's digital. But the one thing that you can't do on digital still is that you can't get those fluoro colors. You can't get that. You can't get the whites. You can't get the way it sits above. You can't do. But we do a lot of hybrids. With some artists, they like the hybrids where they do digital, but then on top, they go, right, I like that image. Right, I want this on top. And there's one we did an artist called Miss Bugs, and it's digital with 16 color silk screen print, 2 different types of leaf, gold leaf and silver leaf, and varnishes. And it's like, yeah, it's I don't know. We could have done it just a silk screen at that point. It would have been cheaper. We kind of could. Because the trouble with digital is it runs through a machine and you have to print that first. But because it's going through a machine, it's, even though you put crop marks on it, you have the crop marks. So when then you print the silk screen on top, you can see the crop marks. Because of the paper, it's on a roll, paper stretches. Paper kind of goes, it has a grain. It goes long ways and short ways. And sometimes the paper stretch, it's different on a roll, and because it's being pulled and thing, it has this kind of, it does that. And that's also the one thing with paper. With the paper we have, is this organic thing. When we get it in the paper, when we get it in the packets, we put it on the drying rack, let it kind of relax itself into the atmosphere of where the room that you're in. You leave it in there for 2 days, and then we can print on it because it's still stretching. It's finding its way in the room. And the worst thing, because we can see the humidity. Sometimes you have these kind of really muggy days. The paper will stretch long ways, can stretch. On a big print, it will stretch 2 millimeters. Now, if you want to do something about, you just think it's fucking stretched. And you have to make a new screen to accommodate that. There's no way around it. And that's one thing, a lot of young kids coming into screen printing, they've got to understand screen printing is a problem-solving thing. You're solving. It's like if you think, like if you've got a little dot and you're making the screen and there's a little dot there, you think, oh, I'll just ignore it, and you carry on. It's not going to go away. You have to think, right, what do I do? Oh, right, I have to kind of block the screen. I have to spot that. Or there's a piece of it, I have to take it off. I have to remake the screen. You have to kind of, in your head, you know what you've got to do. But if you're not, don't want to do it, you just carry on. in this kind of like thing, it's going to be better, but it's not. You just got to deal with it, especially when people are paying money for it. But I love it. I love it. I love it where art meets craft. That's what I love. That's why I love doing ceramics. That's why I like that. And artists, when they do come to work with us, and some of them say, when they're working from an original, they say, do you know what, Dario? It's better than the painting, because they distill their ideas and they look at it and they perfect them, and you can make them tighter, more precise. And my job is to say, oh, what should I do? Because, well, if you do that and you put that color, you're going to make that look darker, which is going to affect that or that. If you do that, it's my choice. I'm there to give you choices, but it's still the artist's decision. They decide. It's just for me to show what is available. What can you do? This is what you can do at this point, but this will happen. This will happen. This will happen. You make the choice.
As a totally random aside, I have to say I'm incredibly envious of your job. Like, I mean, you have positioned yourself in this magnificent career where basically you get to work with the galleries, which of course all creative people like to work with those, and you get to work with the artists. And neither of their technical successes is relevant to you, because you get paid regardless of whether it's sold or not. So like, you have this great place in the arts world that, like, that's incredibly envious to be.
I wake up fucking angst-ridden every morning. We have a lift. I'm like hyperventilating, because you have to keep it going. And I love what I do, but it just takes energy. But we only do 50% paid work. 50% of what we do is paid. It's paid by galleries. It's paid by museums. It's paid by the artists. And the other 50% we publish. That means I fund the editions. I fund them. So 50% covers all the bills. It's about £75,000 every month to run Jealous. That's what it runs with all the stuff. We've got 3 buildings to run all of that. We do the framing, we do the printing, we have studios. So that's the expense. So we do have to bring the money, but the other 50% I publish over David Shrigley. And we work with primary school little kids. We work with the MAs from the colleges, and we do lots of different things. It's exciting. I still like doing. I love it because I'm unemployable. I wouldn't want to do anything else. And sometimes I always say, I don't really want to be me, but I don't want to be anybody else either. It's that kind of thing. It's like, oh, yeah, it's a stressful job, but I love it. I do. I love working with the artists. I feel at home with them. Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of world. It's like, and then I can see you get it as well. You're talking with people that, a lot of the artists, it's like, Ben, I've known him for ages. He drinks vodka for breakfast, and I see him and we have a drink and he goes, Dario, I'm off the drugs. And I goes, we're fucking having vodka. He goes, well, one step at a time. I'm like, right, okay. But the thing is, I feel normal in this world. Do you know what I mean? It's like we can sit there and they'll talk about, fucking having because artists are delicate things and I'm delicate. They say, oh, Dario, I'm just fucking, my head's just fucked. I'm not going through a good thing. I'm doing that. But it's like, if you kind of maybe working in an office, if people start saying that, they think, oh, don't talk to him. He's the weird, Here, everybody's a bit on the spectrum. Everyone's a bit damaged. Everyone are jealous. And therefore, it doesn't really matter. People are people. And yeah, I don't know. I love it.
As I said, I am very envious of your position. I think it sounds like a great career to have, well, from your perspective, fallen into, but a great idea to be able to be involved in the arts without a lot of the pressure of being an individual artist and are they going to love my work and all that, like the joy of being able to work with other people collaboratively.
Yes, and that's what you're right. That's the part that I do love. And it is, people today say, oh, could you represent me? Because we have 2 galleries and we do the art fairs. And I say, you know what, the truth is and it's actually Adam who runs a studio. And he was saying, do you know what, the truth is when you're represented and they want that exclusivity, they need to guarantee you a living. They need to guarantee, they can't say, yeah, you can't show anywhere else, but we've only fucking sold four originals and you think I could make more by going out. So you have to almost guarantee, I don't want to use the word a stipend, but they have to guarantee you an income that covers your basic, but your basic daily living expenses, your bills, your car, your everything. Because otherwise, you cannot expect that control in a way. But I mean, again, but that's changing as well. With so many artists now, Instagram is they're the new slides, But that's where it is. They sell directly, and I know. But
I'm nodding my head
yeah,
unagreeably.
I know. But that's the way it is now. Yeah, it's the way it is. And I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just kind of thinking, well, that's the way it is. And so artists are expected to do things. And, some artists really become a product. They become, and they don't even notice that switch over. Oh, we're working with an artist now who showed with Banksy at Dismal Land. And he made an image which was shown there. And he did really, really, really well with it. But now he's known for that kind of those series of images. And so when you see him, he's doing a fair or he's doing a print, and he's doing where you see they've got lots of, he's made new editions. They're always the ones that have been seen before are the ones doing well. And these other ones which are lovely, but people want that because it's tied into that. It's tied into Banksy. And so, we reckon, yes, he showed at this show. Now, does he kind of does he regret it? He's now trapped. He's trapped in that. He wouldn't go back because it's fucking helped him buy his flat, his apartment. And it's that catch-22. I want my cake and eat it. I've got the flat. I wish, what, on the simplest level, I suppose he just thinks, yeah, it's been really good for me. I just wish they'd look at my other stuff as well. I guess that's it.
It's an interesting dilemma that a lot of artists have in their lives, which, okay, first of all, every artist wants to be recognized, whatever, like their work to be recognized and respected, all this kind of stuff. And then if we can get one image in our entire lifetime recognized, it's amazing, because there are so many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of artists that are not recognized for anything they've ever done for their career. And then those people that get that one recognized are always like, gosh, I wish people would recognize my other stuff. And I'm like, you are so lucky to even have one recognized.
Yeah, no, I agree. But then there's also the other thing is, like, we're working at the moment, we're working with, we do a launch at the Royal Academy, or the Royal Academy used to be, the original print fair, which is now in Somerset House. It's an art fair. And artists, when they get to a certain level, the money doesn't motivate them anymore. They're after that legacy. They're after that being seen in the right places. And so we're kind of working with Stanley Donwood. He did all the stuff for Radiohead, and Tom York, the main singer from Radiohead. And we're doing it. And I said, listen, and they do really well. They don't need the money. And I prayed for Stanley Donwood. So he's an old friend of mine. And I said, listen, Stanley, Tom, right, we're launching at the Royal Academy. We're going to place it in the Victoria and Albert Museum Art Library collection. They're going to do all the publicity, going to be one of the people they focus on. Do you want to do it? I goes, and we're publishing it with Stephen from Enid Farman Editions, old school, in Museum Street book publishers. And they kind of think, yeah, do you know what? That ticks the boxes. I get to write a poem. I get to do a piece of art. It gets placed in the V&A. Some money will come in from it. It's working with Jealous. It's working. It ticks those boxes. It's where I want to be seen. Yeah, Dario, let's work together. It's not even talking about the money. It's just, look, this is what I will do with it. It will be placed in these places. So they want to. It's like when the Hockney, I saw it. I love David Hockney. He did a show at the Royal Academy, and he chose, and the last one, and they're all portraits or people sitting for him, of all the people, and one, they're kind of the head of the RA, big collectors, heads of museums, filmmakers. And, I looked at those, and all of those people there are there because all those portraits will be given to those people, and they'll be kept in their houses. They're all big people. And basically I looked at them, and it felt slightly disingenuous that I thought, do you know what, Mr. Hockney, it's like you're fucking, it's for your legacy. You're putting in all these dun, 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 these little pieces and all these different houses that will keep you alive long after you're gone. That's what I feel. And this is from someone who loves Hockney. There's someone who loves his work. I love what he's about. I love what he does. But I saw that show, and I'm probably wrong. Maybe I am not. Maybe I'm not wrong. But it just felt as if he was too aware of the people that he chose to paint. For me, so what I'm saying is the same thing. Is artists go to past a certain point, and it's being remembered. Is would I suppose what would artists say? Say, look, a well-off career, and the moment you're dead, you're fucking forgotten. Or you'll struggle for your life, but when you're fucking dead, you will be one of the big ones. And I wonder, what would you go for? What would you go for? A comfortable life, but it all dies with you? Or do you, I don't know.
It goes back and forth.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
I mean, I'm sort of more at this point in my life, I'm a bit more on the idea of I'd rather leave a legacy for my family and children kind of thing to be able to do something with.
Exactly. And that's, I suppose that's what I think. And do you know the film director Wes Anderson?
Of course.
Right. Okay. I was talking with an artist, and I said, "Have you seen the last film?"
I was waiting for you to go. I was talking with Wes Anderson.
No. The French Dispatch. Do you know the French Dispatch? Have you seen the? Right. Have you seen the last one? I didn't like that as much as these other ones. Like, it wasn't the Grand Budapest Hotel, and I felt as if the visuals stood in front of the story for me. I felt that. And that's what I felt. It's like great visual, the way it goes in and the scene opens. And I thought it'd be great on stage, the way the way those whole sets move. But the story didn't sit at the forefront. But anyway, that's what I felt. And I was speaking to an artist. I said, "Oh, have you seen?" He goes, "He's a bit annoying, isn't he, though?" And I knew what he meant. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know what you mean." But anyway, what I liked in the French Dispatch, and I thought, I really want to do this with Jealous, where he said when the guy, and it was Bill Murray, he runs it. The moment he died, he closed the French Dispatch, the magazine, and he said anyone who had a subscription will get paid back. Anyone who works here, stop straight away. They will get paid at the end of the year and a good bonus, and that's it. And I was kind of thinking, I might put that in my will. The moment I die, Jealous stops. Anyone who's paid a deposit for a print gets the money returned. Every single bit of art that we have just fucking gets destroyed. Everyone who's worked with me will be paid to the end of the year, and then they can fuck off. And then that's, and I kind of like the idea of that, because then people will say, I can't believe he's just done that. I cannot fucking believe he's done that.
In and of itself, that's an interesting legacy.
Jealous. It died the day he died, but probably won't. But
you just brought up something that I was wondering about, which is like storage. Like, so you do prints? You were saying you produce prints for pay, but you also then fund some prints, publish your own prints, and so you then store all of these, right?
Yes, we have plan chests in our other building. It was like, and Jackie's the one who brought it up. She said, if we were to sell all
fire?
We're insured with it. But the trouble is, with prints, you can't charge. You don't get the money back what they're worth. You get the money back for insurance on the cost of having to remake them again. That's how it works. Because again, it's if somebody says, but why is that a real price? I say, because that's what they sell for. Yeah, but for you to make them again, you haven't lost that money because you can remake them again, can't you? Yeah, and how much would it cost you to remake? Well, that would be the cost. So that's how it works. But
fucking insurers.
I know. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of paper. But we have drawers of prints that have just not sold, and I still love them. But we have just drawers and drawers and drawers and drawers of prints. Just so much.
And partly that's sort of the thing. It's like, so you keep everything in like a flat files, basically.
Yeah, they're those big drawers, big chests of drawers. They're made for paper. About yeah.
That must be very heavy as well.
Yeah, paper. Yeah, paper's. I mean, paper's heavy. Yes, they are. They are heavy, and it's they get damaged and they get done. So yeah, they do. It's just paper storage. It's just storage. Everything has to be kept flat and looked after. And in archival, in archival, so everything has to be done properly, pH neutral. Everything has to be done from when we frame, we frame properly. So we don't use kind of glue. You use rice paper with rice starch kind of hinges to put it at the back, and so you have as least intervention in the paper as possible. But yeah,
I do know I was a framer at one point in my career. Yes.
Yeah. And that's when we do framing. But I collect paper, I collect works. So that's what I do.
All right. Within that, I have I've got like 2 last questions.
Yeah.
So
we've been talking for nearly 2 hours.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. You're great. You've got great stories. I love it. So the certificates of authenticity,
right.
Do you do them?
Yes, COAs. Yes, we do. Are they worth anything when a gallery sells a piece of art that they own and sell it to you? Not really. Not really. I mean, does it when we do? Yes, because we printed them. That's different. Our paper, lots of our prints, they've got our blind stamp, JP, jealous prints. So it has our stamp. Some artists, sometimes we don't do them, but on the whole, we do them. So that already says where it comes from. So you get a certificate saying, this is printed by Jealous, this is number 33, 12 color silk screen, it has all that information, but we printed it. And sometimes people say, you get the auction houses and saying, oh, Dario, oh, this is Chris, this is Sarah. Oh, all right, Sarah, how are you doing? Oh, we've got someone who's brought in this David Shrigley print. I'm just funny, it's this AP, but I thought the APs were numbered. I said, oh, let me see. Oh, no, that's fine. And actually, I just want to go back because I didn't cover this. Right now, APs, you get about 10%. So I'll be really quick. You get 10%. But when you make an edition of 125 prints, you start off with more because you're going to lose some along the way. The ink will mess up on one. And if it's, you may lose 1 or 2 per color. So if you're doing 10 colors, you're going to print about 30 extra. So if it's edition 125, you have to do about 106. Well, we do about 180. You say, but why so many? Because then you have insurance copies. Because now everything goes out on we sell a lot online. It goes out, they're posted. FedEx, DHL, they arrive. You get a picture. It's just been fucking bent or the tube is broken. You say, can I have the picture? Okay. Send it back to us and then we'll resend it. So then we have to have it sent back. We can't see that was number 46. So we get the one that is insurance copy and we just fill in the number 46 of 125 and send it. Now, when they're all gone, you still have, sometimes you don't have any insurance copies. On the whole, and we don't lose many along the way, you might have 7 or 8 that are numbered, that are signed by the artist. Now, what do you do with those? Now, they're signed by the artist. So what you do is you turn them, and it's traditional, just you turn them back into APs and then you sell them. You don't throw them away. Now, that's quite normal. Sometimes you get 2 or 3. And so that is normal to do. So that's when people say, but how come this one has only got 13 APs and their number is 3 unnumbered? And you explain that's why they're insurance copies. And so they turned into APs after. So sometimes that's why there's that flux with APs.
I had never thought about the idea of an insurance copies. I think that's great.
You have to have.
Me, well, it's a very modern idea. Like 50 years ago, we didn't need to think about that.
But 50 years ago, you'd have HCs. They're called HCs. They're called hors commerce, not for sale. Now, they're the ones, when they'd make big editions in Paris, then what they do, they'd send them out to the galleries to sell, but then they'd give them one to show people, and that's called HC. So when you'd be looking at the print, you say, look, and you could talk about the print and show them print, but that wasn't for sale. That's called HCs. Then you have the APs. Then the printers always get one called PPs. You get the printer's proof. So all the printers always get one. So sometimes, the thing is, the reason why I can pay shit wages is because the printers were they're printing the David Shrigley. So if they're printing one, they get their wages, and then they get their one that says printer's proof, which then they will sell for £3,000 or £4,000. Now, so they're getting 2 or 3 of those a year. You need the job to get the perks, and so that's why. But that's how AP. So you have APs, you have PPs. And David Shrigley gives us one ARC, archival, and so it's for our archives. So we keep those for our archives, so people saying them. When I'm broke, I'll sell those. I'll be honest. Sorry, David, but no, I don't. I do. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, like, do you all as a corporation even have like a good collection of like the works that you have produced?
Do you know what? I never keep the printers proofs. I always let all the printers that do them. So yeah, we do on some of them. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But not all of them. We don't have this we don't have we're not, some companies are really organized. We're not that organized that we have one of every single one that we printed. We're not, yeah, we're a bit more.
Like Lego, where they kept like one of everything they've ever produced
Yeah,
and made a
yes.
whole museum out of it.
God, that must be huge. I didn't know Lego was like from Holland or somewhere. It's just like, oh, is it Dutch? Yeah, Dutch is from Holland. Yeah. I always think the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Foo Fighters are the same band. Don't you think they kind of?
Blasphemy.
No, do you? Oh, really? Who do you? Who do
Blasphemy,
you
my
like?
man.
Who do you like?
Wait, between Foo Fighters and Red Hot Chili Peppers? Okay, I would say, well, but I like both of them. I grew up, I'm of the era of Red Hot Chili Peppers, but the early Red Hot Chili Peppers pre-Californication.
Oh, okay. See, I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
So like Mother's Milk and all that stuff, that's me. That's my jam. That's my time.
They're good, yeah. But anyway. All right.
Last little bit. So like, and we can tie this together as sort of one little sort of thing. I noticed you've been doing a lot of philanthropy. So a lot of benefits and a lot of this kind of stuff, which is great. And I'd like to hear a little bit about what you've been sort of engaging with. And like, is this something that you were doing pre-pandemic, or is this something that would sort of came about because of all the situations there? Yeah. That's one part of it. Second part of it is like, you have these amazing connections. Like you have, you keep talking about Victoria and Albert Museum and like all these amazing places and people that you work with. How did you pull that shit off? Like, how did you meet all these great people? Like, what was the, like, cause like when you started Jealous, I'm sure you didn't know all these people. So like, how has it sort of evolved that you've been able to build up these amazing network of connections and people in your career?
With people, it's do you know what it is? If you if you do the same thing for such a long time, it's like, kind of friends that started off in film and friends started off in music, people stay in fashion, and people just, whatever you're doing. But if you're still in it 15, 20 years later, you're just of that level. So, 15 years ago when I started, you'd meet kind of someone, oh, what are you doing? Oh, we're doing Prince. Oh, I'm looking to go into curating. But if you're still doing that in 15, 20 years' time, you've probably moved up. And so the people that you've known have moved up with you. It's like talking about, working with Ben Ine or working with David Shrigley. When we used to kind of start working together, I used to buy his originals for like £400. Now they go, for thousands and thousands. But it's not as if, how have you got to work with him? Because we knew each other when he wasn't there, and I wasn't there. We were just there, but we're still kind of. So that's kind of the kind of way it goes, I suppose. You're in that circle. And because of that, you've got that reputation. You print with people want to print with you and they just see, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one of those things that like, because I'm a professor. And so artists are always like, how, students are like, how can I, build a good career? And I keep trying to tell them, I'm like, an art career is a long game. Like it's not a burn brightly and got all that kind of stuff. Like you have to build relationships and reputation over decades. And a lot of them don't believe me. And then people like you literally, you just basically said, the reason why I have all these amazing people that are in my sphere are because I've known them for decades.
And that's the thing. It's and with artists, I always say, it's not how you deal with the ups, it's how you deal with the downs. Everyone's fine when you're selling and you're the belle de jour, then that's fine. That's good. You can disappear up your own fucking ass. And that's as so many people do. And that's fair enough. It happens the first time. But then it's when you have the downs and then you have the self-doubt and people aren't buying anymore and they're not but to carry on believing that you love what you do and you're doing it for a reason, and it's keeping through with that. So yeah, that's that. With the philanthropy or just doing work, we always hooked up. I grew up around this area, and my mum and dad, they had a cafe, and so I used to work in the cafe. But the East End used to be a place for immigrants. Why is that funny?
When you said calf, I thought you meant like a cow, like a
Oh, a
young
cat. Oh
cow.
no, a cafe, a working man's
Yeah, got it.
cafe. You're right. Yeah, a cat. No, no. So you'd
Got
see,
it. Yes.
yeah. So you
Cafe.
cafe, a cafe, working man's cafe. But what they did, but you just see there was just so much homelessness around here, spiritual fields, and so I grew up with that, and I'd always kind of, and I remember kind of as a little kid, and this old guy used to come into the cafe, and
No, the calf. I know what
the
calf
caf,
means now. You
right?
could say calf now.
He'd come into the cafe, and you just have the menu, and it'd be one of those cheap cafes, but and I remember him looking at the change if he could afford the food, and I kind of think, and that homelessness and that poverty and that general thing of food has always been kind of. So we've always worked with the Big Issue, which is a kind of a magazine which works with homeless people, and we always kind of donated to them. I mean, I have kids, so we work with St. Ormond's Hospital that looks after young kids that are kind of on palliative care or just seriously ill, and and shelter which also deals with homeless. And during pandemic, all of us we cooked for homeless people, and we had these big signs where people were bringing in food. And I'll be honest, people say, "Oh, it's such a good thing to do." Because yeah, it was good, but it also kept all of us sane. Because I'm not saying working with artists, some of us drink too much, someone get into drugs, some of us, you have all of this, I'll be honest, right? Everything shut down apart from my fucking dealer. He was 24/7, and that's the thing. But so it just felt the right thing to do. Now we've hooked up with the Tottenham Food Bank, so we've turned our galleries into drop-off points for Haringey, which is a borough. So then we can do that, and we're putting in £50 a week on top of that. And so many people are just giving money. So then we just give that to them. Do you know what? There's people starving to death. There's people starving to death. And what the fuck? And I know I do what I do, but yeah, it just doesn't. It feels like I just want to kind of be able to live with myself with the things. And I'm not saying don't give as much as I could. So, but I'll do something. I'll do something that fits in with my comfort zone, and and I get other people to help, and it just feels right.
All right. Last little bit I always wrap up with is sort of any advice, sort of from your perspective on like what some young creative person could do to sort of get in and work successfully through this art world.
Do you know what? This is it's slightly more specific. It's when people come in they say they want to come into a gallery and they want to be shown with a gallery. It's they say, "Oh, I've got some really work. Well, I'd like you to represent me." That just scares gallerists off. The way to approach a gallery is to be really easy. Is you go into a gallery, you say, "Oh, hello, can I speak? Blah blah blah. I'm speaking to the owner. Look, I really love your gallery." And obviously, you look for a gallery that does the same kind of work that you have. You've no point in doing landscapes if they're showing abstract kind of sculpture. There's not for you. They're not going to say no. So I think, oh, they could show my work and say, look, this is my work. Always show them less. Don't show them think, oh, I've got these three are really good. These next two are a bit shit, or they're okay, and then they go down. Don't show those. Just show the 3 or 4 good ones, and just say, look, these are the works that people love. Yeah, these are the works that people love. I really love your gallery. If you're ever having a group show in the summer or Christmas, I would love to be part of it. I could bring you down the work framed. Obviously, you show the work. I'd give you my kind of my collector's nut base, so they you can forward it out to them, and gallerists are like, God, they're going to give me they and just say, look, and these are the really strong works. This one has had a really good response to, I sold us, and just so make it easy for them. And they have a group show, they think, yeah, she was, it's okay. But then your aim as an artist is to get it on the wall. The rest, the market dictates. Your aim is to see a gallery and think, I want it on that wall there. How do I get one piece on the wall to get it shown? Because then it's not even down to you or the gallery. They've got it on the wall, and the gallery will see how people respond to that work. And sometimes, even if it doesn't sell, they might think, do you know what? I really like that piece. What's her name again? Or what's his name? Have a look. God, that's really, really nice. But do you know what I mean? That's what I would say. It's just go in there low key. Don't say expecting just be nice to people. Always get back to people. Always kind of put the work out. Just be friendly. I mean, network is I'm shit at networking, but if you do it genuinely, just kind of yeah, just be open. Do you know?
I do, and you've been great.
Oh, good.
This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it has been, hasn't it? It's been good.
It has. I'm sure you're very busy, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
To wrap this up, I'd like to thank you for listening all the way to the end of the conversation. We would appreciate it if you would share the podcast with your friends, family, coworkers, studio mates, or anybody with an interest in arts and creative endeavors. The building and strengthening of the arts and creative community is at the core of our mission for this podcast. They can listen and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are produced by 5014. The audio was edited by CushAudio Services, and the music was created by Pete Bybee. The Wise Fool Art Podcast is supported in part by an EEA grant from Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway in an effort to work together for a green, competitive, and inclusive Europe. We would also like to thank our partners Hunt Kastner in Prague, Czech Republic, and Kunstsentrene i Norge in Norway. Links to EEA grants and our partner organizations are available in the show notes or on our website, wisefoolpod.com.